I stand on the wraparound porch of the mountain home, keys heavy in my palm. The Colorado Rockies tower behind me, snow-capped peaks gleaming in the afternoon sun, despite it being mid-June. My heart beats a rapid rhythm against my ribs as I watch my parents climb the wooden steps. Mom's eyes widen, darting from the riverstone facade to the floor-to-ceiling windows, reflecting the mountain vista. Dad's weathered hand grips the cedar railing, his gaze sweeping across the 3 acres of pine-studded property. "Jessica, honey, why did you bring us here?" Mom asks, confusion creasing her forehead. I extend my hand, keys dangling from my fingers. "Because it's yours." The mountain breeze carries their gasps away. Mom's hand flies to her mouth, and Dad's eyes, those steady eyes that never wavered through all my childhood scrapes, fill with tears. We can't possibly." Dad stammers, but he's already reaching for the keys. "You can, and you will," I say, pressing the keys into his palm and closing his fingers around them. "After 35 years of putting everyone else first, it's time you had something just for you." Mom launches herself at me, arms wrapping tight around my shoulders, her tears dampening my neck. "Oh, Jessie, how could you possibly afford this?" From the corner of my eye, I catch Amanda and Lauren standing by the SUV, their expressions unreadable. Amanda's arms cross over her chest, while Lauren whispers something to her husband, Eric. Neither makes a move to join us on the porch. Later, as we sit in the great room unpacking the story, I explain about the years of 60-hour weeks, the promotions I chased relentlessly, the bonuses invested rather than spent. "Remember how you teased me about my boring condo when I could afford something flashier?" I smile at Dad. That was the point. Live beneath my means, save the difference. "But this should be your vacation home," Mom protests. "Not ours." I shake my head. "Daniel and I decided this together. We want you to have the retirement you deserve." I don't mention how I'd spent months scouring property listings, how my heart leapt when I found this place peaceful, private, perfect for parents who'd spent decades in a cramped suburban home, with too many mortgages and never enough savings. When evening falls, we gather on the deck. The mountains have transformed from harsh daylight definition to soft purple silhouettes against the darkening sky. Mom's arranged a cheese board on the teak table, and Dad's uncorked a bottle of champagne that Lauren brought their one contribution to the day. "To Jessica," Dad says, raising his glass, "for making an old man's dream come true." The others echo his toast. Amanda's smile doesn't reach her eyes. Lauren's gaze keeps drifting to the panoramic view, calculations almost visible behind her expression. "I've arranged for a property manager, Sarah, to handle maintenance," I explain, sipping my champagne. "She'll keep everything running smoothly when you're not here." "And when can we use it?" Lauren asks, leaning forward. Her tone carries an edge that makes Daniel squeeze my hand under the table. "It's Mom and Dad's house," I say evenly, "but they've agreed family can visit when it's available. You'll just coordinate with them." "Seems like a lot of house for just 2 people, Amanda's husband Jake remarks, eyeing the 4 bedrooms visible from the open second-floor landing. "Perfect for when the grandkids visit," Mom says quickly, patting his arm. I catch Amanda whispering to Jake when she thinks I'm busy refilling glasses. "Wasted space most of the year. Such a shame when..." Lauren shifts in her chair, directing her question to our parents, but glancing at me. "So about scheduling, summer weekends book up fast in the mountains. Should we put in requests now, or..." "Let's not get ahead of ourselves," Dad laughs. "We haven't even slept here yet." Daniel's hand finds mine again under the table, his thumb brushing my knuckles in silent warning. I catch his eye and see my own concerns reflected there. But then Mom starts talking about the garden she envisions planting next spring, and Dad jumps in with plans for a telescope on the upper deck, and their joy is so pure, so deserved, that I push my unease aside. I couldn't know then that my most generous gift would become the battleground for a family war I never saw coming. The bass-heavy music hits me before we even exit the car. Daniel winces beside me as children's screams pierce through the throbbing beat. We exchange a glance that communicates everything without words. "Ready?" he asks, reaching for the dish of roasted vegetables we brought. I nod, squaring my shoulders like I'm heading into a board meeting, rather than my parents' suburban backyard. The gate creaks as we push through. Dad stands hunched over the smoking grill, sweat beading on his forehead despite the patio umbrella's shade. When he spots us, relief floods his weathered face. "Thank God," he mutters, embracing me with one arm while flipping burgers with the other. "Your mom's been running herself ragged." Sure enough, Mom darts between tables, collecting abandoned juice boxes and half-eaten hot dogs. Her smile strained as she tries to maintain order in what looks like barely controlled chaos. Jessica! Amanda's voice carries across the yard, unnaturally loud. She sprawls in a lounger, margarita glass tilted precariously in her manicured hand. Lauren sits beside her, oversized sunglasses hiding her eyes, but not the flush spreading across her chest. A pitcher between them is nearly empty. Their husbands occupy the corner of the patio, beer bottles scattered around them like fallen soldiers. Jake gestures wildly, face inches from Eric's, their argument about baseball statistics escalating with each swig. No one watches the 5 children racing around the pool, despite the no-running sign Dad installed last summer. You're here! Lauren lurches to her feet, sloshing her drink onto the concrete. She embraces me, alcohol fumes overwhelming her usual perfume. We've been day drinking since noon, don't judge. Wouldn't dream of it, I reply, disengaging myself to help Mom, who's struggling with a stack of plates. Let me, I say, setting down my phone on the table to take the plates from her trembling hands. A chorus of giggles draws my attention. 3 of my nieces and nephews crouch behind the snack table, whispering conspiratorially, eyes locked on me. 7-year-old Mason makes a pushing motion with his hands, and they nod in unison. Before I can react, they charge, arms outstretched toward my back, clearly intending to shove me into the pool. I sidestep instinctively, emotion as natural as breathing after years of corporate maneuvering. Their momentum carries them forward, little arms windmilling as they lose balance. 3 splashes follow in rapid succession. For one heartbeat, everything freezes. Then chaos erupts. 2 of the children thrash in the water, panic evident in their wide eyes. The 3rd dog paddles awkwardly, coughing. Daniel and I move simultaneously, diving into the pool fully clothed. The cold water shocks my system as I grab Mason under his arms, lifting him toward the surface. Daniel does the same with Emma, while Zoe manages to reach the edge herself. What the hell did you do? Amanda staggers toward the pool, face contorted with rage. I push sopping hair from my eyes, still holding Mason. They tried to push me. You pushed my babies into the pool. Lauren shrieks, yanking Zoe from the water so roughly the child cries out. They could have drowned. That's not what happened, Daniel says calmly, handing Emma to her father. They actually tried to... Shut up! Jake steps toward Daniel, shoulders squared. You could have killed them! My parents hover at the edge of the confrontation, Mom wringing her hands, Dad attempting to interject. No, wait a minute, I saw what happened. Stay out of this, Dad, Amanda snaps, not even glancing his way. Eric joins Jake, their postures mirroring each other as they advance toward Daniel. You think you're better than us, don't you? With your fancy job and your fancy condo. The children, now wrapped in towels, sob dramatically, encouraged by their mother's hysteria. Danielle catches my eye, a silent question. I give the barest nod. We're leaving, I announce, voice level despite the adrenaline coursing through me. Water drips from my clothes, forming puddles on the concrete. No one tries to stop us as we gather our things. Dad follows us to the car, his face creased with distress. They've been under a lot of stress lately, he says, helping me with the car door. You know how it is with kids. I really look at him and see the excuses he's made for my sisters their entire lives. That doesn't excuse what just happened, Dad, I say gently but firmly. You were helping them and they turned it into something ugly. He has no response to that. The drive home is quiet, our wet clothes adhering uncomfortably to the leather seats. Daniel reaches over to squeeze my hand, his touch grounding me. At home, I peel off my damp clothing and wrap myself in a robe, only then remembering my abandoned phone. Daniel's rings with a notification, then another. Your sisters, he says, handing me his phone. The messages scroll like poison. Amanda, how dare you endanger my children and then just leave? Lauren, Mason is traumatized. He could have died because of you. 5 more notifications ping in rapid succession, each message more vitriolic than the last. The final text stops me cold. Amanda, after everything we've done for you and that house, this is how you repay us? I stare at the screen, pulse quickening. What does she mean, everything they've done for the house? Daniel's expression darkens. I don't know, but I think we should find out. My stomach twists with dread, a premonition forming that whatever awaits me will forever change how I see my family. Amanda's final text burns in my mind. After everything we've done for you and that house, I sit at my desk, the blue light of my laptop illuminating my face in the darkness of our home office. Daniel sleeps down the hall, but rest eludes me. My sister's words echo, a puzzle piece that doesn't fit the narrative I've understood until now. What could they possibly have done for a house that belongs to our parents? A house I purchased? My fingers hover over the keyboard before typing the address into Google. The search results populate, and my breath catches. The third result isn't a property record or a map location. It's a vacation rental listing. I click, and my parents' retirement sanctuary fills the screen professionally photographed, staged with decorative touches I don't recognize. Sullivan Family Mountain Retreat. The headline reads, $2,500 week. Perfect for families and small gatherings. My stomach drops as if I'm in free fall. The calendar on the side shows nearly every week of summer blocked out in red. Booked. I click to another tab. The same house appears on a different vacation rental site. And another. And another. No, I whisper, scrolling through guest reviews. 3 years worth. Amanda and Lauren were wonderful hosts. They left a welcome basket and called to check on us midweek. The Sullivan sisters have thought of everything. We'll definitely be booking again next year. My hands shake as I take systematic screenshots, methodically documenting everything. I create a folder, naming it with today's date. Evidence. Proof. My finance brain kicks in, calculating weekly rates against the booking calendar. At least $60,000. Possibly much more. A dedicated Instagram account appears in my search results at Sullivan Mountain Retreat. I scroll through photos of my sisters posing on the deck, welcoming guests, arranging welcome baskets made from items I'd purchased for the house. Property owners Amanda and Lauren welcome the Chen family for their 3rd annual visit. One caption reads, "My sisters beaming with the unearned pride of hosts showing off their property." I reach for my phone, my hand trembling so badly I nearly drop it. I tap my father's contact, placing the call on speaker while I continue gathering screenshots. "Jesse?" His voice is thick with sleep. "Everything okay? It's almost midnight." "Dad, I need you to wake up Mom and put me on speaker." My voice sounds strange, distant even to my own ears. "What's wrong?" Concern sharpens his tone. "Please, Dad, just get Mom." I hear rustling, murmured conversation, then my mother's worried voice. "Jessica, what's happened?" I take a deep breath. "Have either of you rented out the Colorado house to vacationers?" Silence, then confusion. "What? No, of course not. Why would we do that?" "Someone has been." I swallow hard. "For 3 years. "That's impossible," Mom says, but uncertainty has crept into her voice. "Who would?" "Amanda and Lauren." I say, and the words taste bitter. "They've been renting it out every week it's available. They've made at least $60,000. Dad's sharp intake of breath is audible. "No, they wouldn't do that behind our backs." I'm looking at the listings right now. Their names are all over the reviews. They've created an Instagram account. They're posing as the owners. "Oh my God," Mom whispers. "The house was for family," Dad says, his voice hardening with each word. "Not for profit." I'm sending you everything I've found. I email the folder of screenshots. We need to confront them. Together. "Come for dinner tomorrow," Mom says, her voice quavering. "I'll tell them it's a family meeting about summer plans." "Don't tip them off," I warn. "Let them walk in blind." Like they kept us blind for 3 years? Dad's anger vibrates through the phone. "We'll see you at 6. The atmosphere in my parents' dining room crackles with tension. My tablet sits at the head of the table, face down. Mom keeps glancing at it, then away, as if it might suddenly animate. Dad stands rigid by the window, watching the driveway. "They're here," he announces as a gleaming SUV pulls up. Another follows. My sisters and their husbands emerge, laughing about something, utterly unaware of the storm awaiting them. Daniel squeezes my knee under the table. "Stay calm," he murmurs. The front door opens, voices filling the entryway. Jake's booming laugh. Eric's rapid-fire commentary. My sisters talking over each other. They enter the dining room with the confidence of people who've never faced consequences. Jarek heads straight to the liquor cabinet, helping themselves to Dad's scotch without asking. "Family meeting, huh?" Lauren says, dropping into a chair. Is this about the 4th of July at the lake house? Because we've already booked our flights to Colorado. My father clears his throat. Actually, we need to talk about the Colorado house. Amanda rolls her eyes. If this is about the pool toys we left on the deck, the cleaner was supposed to. It's not about pool toys. I flip over the tablet, tapping the screen. The vacation rental listing fills the display. I turn it toward them. It's about this. The room freezes. 4 faces cycle through expressions. Confusion, recognition, alarm, and most tellingly, calculation. What is this? Lauren attempts, but her voice lacks conviction. Don't. I swipe to the next screenshot. Your names are in the reviews. You created an Instagram account. You've been renting out mom and dad's house for 3 years. You've been what? Mom's voice breaks. This is some kind of misunderstanding. Amanda begins, but Jake cuts her off. Look, you don't even use it, he says, glass in hand, scotch sloshing dangerously. We're just being efficient with a family asset. Efficient? Dad's voice rises. It's not an asset. It's our home. Let's be realistic. Lauren says, her gaze calculating. You make more than enough money, Jessica. The house sits empty most of the time. You simply found a way to make it useful. How could you do this behind our backs? Mom asks, and the raw hurt in her voice slices through the room. Instead of contrition, Amanda straightens, defiance hardening her features. We've been managing it beautifully. The guests love us. You should be thanking us for maintaining the place, Lauren adds, crossing her arms. Do you know how much work it takes to clean between guests? To coordinate bookings? I stare at them, these strangers wearing my sister's faces. The conversation takes a turn so shocking, so utterly disconnected from reality, that for a moment I wonder if I've misheard. Since you're so successful, Lauren continues, leaning forward, you should be covering our kids' college funds anyway. Family helps family. We wouldn't need the rental income if you stepped up. The room falls silent. I stand slowly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. When I speak, my voice is quiet but edged with steel. You've been stealing from me for 3 years. Amanda waves dismissively. Don't be so dramatic. We're family. The word family twists in my chest, a knife turning. I look at these people my blood and see only entitlement staring back. Not anymore. I gather my tablet, my movements precise, controlled. You have 24 hours to remove your belongings from the property. After that, anything left will be discarded. You can't do that. Eric slams his glass down. She can, my father says, moving to stand beside me. His hand finds my shoulder, warm and solid. And we support her. You've crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. Lauren's face contorts with fury. This is about money? After everything we've sacrificed to? This was never about money. I cut her off. This was about trust, about respect, things you clearly don't understand. As I walk out with Daniel and my parents, I feel something shift irrevocably. The family I thought I had disintegrates behind me, replaced by the stark reality of who they truly aliened, who I must become to protect what's mine. What I don't yet know is how far they'll go to keep their secret cash flowed, the dangerous lengths I'll have to match to end this war they've started. I need a full security overhaul. My voice is steady as I pace across my home office, phone pressed to my ear. Electronic locks, motion sensors, cameras especially at the gate and storage barn. On my laptop screen, the website for Sierra Mountain Security displays their 5-star rating. The company came highly recommended by a colleague who owns property in the same Colorado County. That's quite an extensive system for a vacation home, the security consultant says. Are we talking about deterring bears or something else? Something else. I pull up the screenshots of the rental listings, a sick feeling churning in my stomach. Timeline? We can have a team out tomorrow. Full installation within 48 hours. Behind me, Daniel leans against the doorframe, concern etched across his face. Is all of this really necessary, Jess? I lower the phone against my shoulder. You don't know my sister's husbands like I do. The memory of Jake's red-faced rage at the pool flashes through my mind. Trust me. It's necessary. 3 days later, I sit across from Sarah at a local coffee shop in Breckenridge. Her weathered hands wrap around her mug as she reviews the property management agreement I've drafted. I've handled vacation rentals for 15 years, she says, tucking a strand of silver-streaked hair behind her ear. Family disputes over properties are common. but this is next level. I wish I was overreacting. I slide the keys across the table, the last physical keys that will exist for the property after today's security installation. The electronic access codes will go only to you, my parents, Daniel, and me, no one else. Sarah's eyes widen. Not even your sisters? Especially not my sisters. My voice doesn't waver. If anyone else attempts to access the property, you're authorized to call the police immediately. She nods, a new seriousness in her expression. I understand, and I'll document everything. That's why I hired you. Back at my condo that evening, I sit on the edge of our bed, phone in hand. The security company confirmed installation is complete. All systems active. My finger hovers over the send button for several seconds before I finally tap it. The group text goes to Amanda, Lauren, Jake, and Eric. The Colorado property has new security measures installed. Access is restricted to authorized persons only. Any unauthorized entry will be considered trespassing and reported to police. Within 30 seconds, my phone rings. Amanda. I let it go to voicemail, then listen as her voice escalates from controlled anger to screaming. You can't do this. It's family property. We've put money into it. Before I can process her words, another notification. Voicemail from Eric. His voice is low, menacing. You can't lock us out of what we've built. This isn't over. I forward both messages to my attorney with a simple note. As expected. Daniel sits beside me, slipping an arm around my shoulders. You okay? I will be. I lean into him, suddenly exhausted. This is over. The security alert jolts me from sleep at 2:17 a.m. I grab my phone, Daniel already reaching for his. Multiple sensors triggered, he says, voice thick with sleep. I tap into the security app, pulling up the live feed. My breath catches in my throat. The night vision camera shows Jake at the front gate, the metal glint of an angle grinder in his hands. Sparks fly as he cuts through the padlock. Behind him, Eric's truck idles. Bed loaded with what looks like tools. They're breaking in, I whisper, then force myself to move. I hit the emergency call by the local sheriff while Daniel pulls up additional camera feeds. Eagle County Sheriff's Department, a dispatcher answers. I need to report a break-in in progress. My voice is surprisingly calm as I relay the address and describe what I'm seeing. 2 men are forcibly entering my property. I have video confirmation. Officers are en route. Are you at the location? No, I'm watching remotely through security cameras. I switch to another feed. They've breached the gate and are approaching the house. On screen, Jake and Eric reach the front door. Jake tests the handle, then pulls out a crowbar. I watch in surreal detachment as he wedges it against the doorframe. Fucking reinforced, I hear him mutter as the crowbar bends. Try the back, Eric hisses. They disappear from view momentarily before reappearing on the barn camera. The storage barn doesn't have the same level of security as the house. 3 harsh blows from the crowbar, and the padlock gives way. They've broken into the storage barn, I tell the dispatcher. Deputies are 2 minutes out, she assures me. Suddenly, headlights sweep across the property. Not the deputies, Sarah's SUV pulls up, followed seconds later by 2 sheriff vehicles, light bars flashing. Jake and Eric emerge from the barn, tools in hand, freezing like deer in headlights. This is my sister, in-law's place, Jake shouts, raising his hands. We're just checking on it. Sarah steps forward, tablet in hand. I'm the authorized property manager. These men have no permission to be here. The deputies move efficiently, flashlights illuminating the broken locks, the angle grinder, the crowbar. Within minutes, Jake and Eric are being handcuffed and led to separate patrol cars. I can barely process what I'm seeing. My brothers-in-law arrested for breaking and entering. The property my parents were meant to enjoy peacefully now a crime scene. My phone begins vibrating, Amanda calling. Then Lauren. Then Amanda again. I silence it, watching as the patrol cars drive away. A text from my mother. We never thought it would come to this, but you're doing the ring. I sit in silence as dawn breaks, declining all calls, watching the sunrise paint the skyline of the city gold while miles away in Colorado. The consequences of betrayal play out in flashing lights and metal handcuffs. When family betrayal escalates to criminal behavior, where do you draw the final line? Papers scatter across the mahogany desk in perfect thirds, stacked by crime. Trespassing, destruction of property, and attempted burglary. Maya Chen, my attorney, points to each charge with a manicured nail. They're looking at jail time, she says, voice steady as a metronome. The evidence is indisputable. The security footage alone. And what if I don't want to press charges? I interrupt, surprising myself with the question. Maya's eyes narrow slightly. She leans back in her leather chair, studying me with the same analytical precision she applies to contracts. That's your choice, Jessica. She folds her hands. But consider what message it sends. This wasn't a misunderstanding. They cut through a gate lock with an angle grinder at 2 a.m. I nod, tracing the embossed letterhead on the charging documents. Not pressing charges feels like surrender. Like telling Jake and Eric their behavior is acceptable. Like telling my sisters the past 3 years of deception don't matter. I'm not dropping the charges, I say finally. I just needed to hear the options. The doorbell rings 3 times in rapid succession. An urgent summons that makes my heart stutter. Through the peephole, I see Amanda and Lauren on my doorstep, each with children clutching their hands, a living, breathing guilt trip arranged on my welcome mat. I open the door but block the entrance with my body. Amanda's eyes are red-rimmed, her mascara slightly smudged. Lauren's face remains more composed, calculating. We need to talk, Amanda says, voice breaking as she nudges her youngest forward. The kids miss their aunt. The small faces looking up at me twist something in my chest, but I recognize the manipulation for what it is. These children haven't been allowed to see me in months long before the break-in. This isn't appropriate, I say, keeping my voice gentle for the children's sake. They made a mistake. Amanda pleads, tears spilling now. They acted stupidly, but jail would destroy our families. Think about your nieces and nephews, Jess. Lauren steps forward, hand on Amanda's shoulder in a show of solidarity. We can work something out between us. Family handles things privately. My fingers tighten on the doorframe. This isn't a negotiation. It's consequences for their actions. You've always been so rigid, Lauren snaps, the veneer of reasonableness cracking. So perfect, Jessica, never made a mistake in her life. Breaking into someone's property with power tools isn't a mistake, I say, my voice lowering to ensure the children don't hear. It's a crime, one with consequences. Please leave. I close the door on their protests, slide down against it, and press my palms to my eyes until stars appear. The email arrives 3 days later, the subject line an innocuous settlement proposal. I forward it to Maya before opening it myself. The brothers-in-law's attorney offers $6,000 for damages, conditional upon dropping all charges. The language is clinical, impersonal. Not once does it acknowledge the 3-year rental scheme or the deliberate nature of the break-in attempt. I type a single word reply. Insufficient. My phone rings within minutes. Maya's voice carries approval. They're testing how little you'll accept, she says. Stand firm. This isn't just about the property damage. It never was. I agree, staring at the pathetic offer. $6,000 for 3 years of lies, for the violation of my parents' trust, for the destruction of what family meant to me. Mom's voice comes through the phone strained and thin, like she's been crying. Everyone was here yesterday, she says. Amanda's oldest made his confirmation. We missed you. The unspoken accusation hangs in the air. I wasn't invited. I'm never invited now. Everyone's saying you're tearing the family apart over money, she continues, the words tumbling out in a rush. Lauren says you're being vindictive because they found a way to make the house useful when it was sitting empty. I press my fingertips to my temple, where a headache builds. This was never about money. It's about respect and trust. I know, honey, she sighs. I just wish. Dad's voice cuts in, deeper and steadier. We support you, honey. Do what you need to do. We've let them walk all over this family for too long. The simplicity of his support loosens something tight in my chest. The conference room feels too warm despite the air conditioning. Jake and Eric sit across the table, shoulders hunched, eyes fixed on the wood grain. They haven't looked at me once since entering. Their attorney, a silver-haired man with a practiced smile, slides a document across the table. My clients are prepared to offer $8,200 for all damages, plus your legal fees, he says smoothly. Additionally, they'll sign a no-contact agreement. We believe this is more than fair compensation for a regrettable family misunderstanding. I study their faces. Jake's jaw muscle twitches. Eric's hands tremble slightly. They expected to buy their way out of this, to pay me off and return to their lives unchanged. I accept these terms, I say quietly, watching relief flood their expressions, but with one addition. I slide a document of my own across the table. Maya drafted it yesterday, written acknowledgement of the rental scheme and formal apology to my parents. Jake and Eric exchange panicked looks. The apology would confirm everything, would require them to admit in writing what they've done. This is unnecessary, their attorney begins, but I interrupt. It's my only condition, I say, voice steady. Without it, we proceed to court. 10 minutes of whispered consultation follows. Jake's face flushes red, Eric's pales to ash. But eventually they pick up their pens. As they sign, hands slightly shaking, I lean forward. This isn't about money, I tell them, meeting their eyes at last. It's about truth. The restaurant is neutral territory, halfway between my condo and my parents' house. Mom and Dad arrive together, looking older than they did 6 months ago. I slide the brothers in. Law's signed confession across the table. Dad reads it first, his weathered hand trembling with suppressed anger. He passes it to Mom, whose tears fall silently onto the linen tablecloth. $60,000, she whispers. Behind our backs, using our name with strangers in our home. I'm sorry, I say, though it's not my apology to make. You have nothing to be sorry for, Dad says firmly. I take a deep breath. This is the hardest part. I can't do this anymore, I tell them. I'm cutting ties with Amanda and Lauren completely. Mom begins to protest, but I shake my head. I'll always be your daughter, but I can no longer be their sister. Not after this. Dad reaches across the table and covers my hand with his. Family is earned, he says simply, and they haven't earned you. Outside, snow begins to fall, covering the city in hushed white. Inside, something breaks and heals simultaneously. I grip the steering wheel as we round the final curve of the mountain road, my heart quickening. The Colorado peaks rise before us, unchanged and majestic against the cerulean sky. Daniel's hand covers mine briefly. A silent reassurance. You okay? He asks. More than okay, I say, surprised by the truth in my words. The vacation home appears through the pines, transformed from the site of betrayal into something renewed. Fresh cedar trim frames the windows, and gardens bloom where there was once only scrub grass. Me mother's vision realized in vibrant waves of columbine and black-eyed Susans. The new wraparound deck gleams in the afternoon light. And there they stand, Mom and Dad, on the porch steps, waiting. Not with the overwhelmed tears of a year ago, but with genuine smiles that reach their eyes. Something in my chest uncoils. Dad bounds down the steps with an energy I haven't seen in years. There she is, he calls, embracing me with arms that feel solid, secure. Mom wraps her arms around us both, her familiar lavender scent enveloping me. This embrace feels different, stronger, more authentic, without the shadow of my sisters hovering at the edges. I take a deep breath of pine-scented mountain air. It finally feels right again. Mom links her arm through mine as we climb the porch steps. Wait until you see what we've done inside. The interior has been cleansed of all traces of rental usage. No more hotel-style furnishings, no laminated instruction sheets, no lockboxes for guest keys. Instead, the great room welcomes us with leather couches arranged around the River Rock fireplace. Photos line the mantel, Mom and Dad on their anniversary hike, the 4 of us at Christmas, Daniel and me summiting a nearby peak last fall. And here, Mom says, leading me to a window nook I barely recognize. Plush cushions and shelves of dog-eared books create a reading sanctuary. Your father built the bookshelves himself. Dad shrugs off my impressed look. YouTube tutorials, he confesses with a wink. We actually get to enjoy it the way you intend it now, Mom says, squeezing my hand. They show us to the upstairs guest roomy room. They insist preserved for our visits with the mountain view I'd fallen in love with when I first found this property. Later, we gather around the fire pit as stars punch through the darkening sky. The flames cast dancing shadows across our faces while Dad stokes the embers. The silence feels comfortable until he clears his throat. They're still struggling to understand what they did wrong, he says quietly. The first mention of my sisters in months. I don't ask how he knows this. The small Colorado town grapevine likely keeps him informed. Or perhaps they've reached out directly. It doesn't matter. Some people never will. I say, my voice steady. Mom squeezes my hand. We understand, and that's enough. The tension I'd been carrying releases, smoke rising into the night sky. Morning brings breakfast on the deck, fresh coffee, blueberry pancakes, and easy laughter that would have been impossible before. Dad tells stories about the local wildlife that has visited, and Mom details her plans for expanding the garden next spring. I watch them, these parents who raised 3 daughters but now fully embrace their redefined family. Smaller, perhaps, but healthier. Dad raises his coffee mug suddenly to boundaries that protect peace. We lift our mugs in unison, the simple gesture symbolizing more than words could express. That afternoon, I walk the property alone as the sun begins its descent behind the mountains. I remember my original vision for this gift to sanctuary, where my parents could finally breathe after decades of giving everything to their children. It has finally become reality, though not the way I expected. My phone buzzes in my Paquita notification from Amanda or Lauren, still sending messages though they remain blocked. I silence it without reading and turn back toward the house where my real family waits. Later, as Daniel and I drive away, I take one last look at my parents waving from the porch, silhouetted against the mountains. I lost sisters but saved myself. Some prices are worth paying, I say. Daniel navigates the winding road with careful precision. You didn't lose family. You just redefined it. I smile as the house disappears in the rearview mirror, the mountains standing tall behind us. The sanctuary is rebuilt, not just the house, but the bodily matter. Family isn't just about blood, it's about respect, trust, and mutual care. Jessica lost the family members who couldn't value her beyond what she could provide, but strengthened bonds with those who loved her for herself. What boundaries have you set to protect your peace? What relationships have you had to redefine? Share your experiences in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more real-life stories of courage and boundaries.